If you want to know what SCP is a collaborative narrative fiction project of a fictional organization called the SCP Foundation. There's tales and different SCPs. It started all the way back to around like 2006 or 7 when there was a SCP called SCP-173 or the Peanuts. It was a 4chan post, but it eventually turned and molested into a own kind of collaborative or writing project, where if you go on the SCP Wiki, you can create your own SCPs if you reach a certain level of quality destination. There's thousands of SCPs, I think even more different tales and stories within this universe. And there's hundreds of canons, with very, very little, like, space you have to keep. Mostly, it has to relate with the SCP Foundation, its world, or anomalous in some way, even if it's related by specifically not having it in some kind of like death of anomalous situation. There's several stories like that, but to specifically get back to the point, there's also a couple other basic ideas. SCP has basic classifications: safe, Euclid, and Keter. These are not based out of safety for you or anyone in the universe. It's safety for what the fictional organization categories as easy to contain. And sometimes those things are lied to. If you look at the SCP mythos, the SCP Foundation usually has so many cover-ups because they're basically just the Men in Black, except for way, way, way more advanced in different ways. Another thing too. Here's the specific definitions on safe, Euclid, and Keter. Safe is if you put it in a box, it won't come out. Euclid is you don't know fully what it could be. Like, could it escape from the box or not? But you're not sure. Keter is, yeah, it will come out of the box regularly, and usually, if it does, it will cost many lives. If any of those three definitions sound simple, it's because it's been used many, many times, and there's many complexities with it. Most self-intelligent entities that aren't in countless different other more minor categories that I will talk about on this video are usually placed into Euclid. And that's just because the nature of having free will usually makes it more difficult to contain because you aren't completely 100% sure that they won't escape. Like some inanimate item, which may kill anyone who physically touches it, but you can move it through your body can, and you figure out how to put it in a box, and then it's just not living. So yeah. Ketters are sometimes very dangerous, sometimes not that dangerous, and it really depends. There are thousands of SCPs, all the way up to 8,000. The SCP Foundation has also several groups of interest. These are other groups in their world. These are not as big as the Foundation usually, but essentially they're different. For example, the Serpentan, they don't like the SCP Foundations and a few other groups of interest idea to preserve normalcy. Sometimes usually they're a very scattered organization, using the Wanderer's Library, an extra-dimensional place that holds basically every single information in the multiverse, as a way to stay safe from their many, many enemies and have power. They also usually are very anomalies rights method, which is a okay opinion to have in the SCP Foundation universe, but isn't the most perfect opinion because so many of those anomalies are also extremely dangerous, but some anomalies are also a little girl that can just produce ice cream or something like that out of thin air. The GLC is essentially the opposite of Foundation in a ways of this Foundation usually wants to contain whatever anomaly, even if it's at a high cost. The GLC very rarely wants to contain anomalies, and only maybe sometimes if they can use those anomalies for a strategic mission. So usually they destroy anything anomalous. They're controlled by the UN in the SCP Foundation world, and they have more of a official in the anomalous world power in the SCP Foundation. But the SCP Foundation also have usually more esoteric origin and other stuff. Essentially, they're more mysterious. Sometimes they're countlessly older than human civilization itself, or like 1920s as one of the latest points in the Foundations. I mean, earliest points in possible Foundation birth periods. Usually it's kept vague because there could be multiple Foundation universe existences, even in the same canon. But anyway, the Foundation and GLC are usually like principal enemies. They aren't more particularly very bad guyish. They'll get the Foundation propaganda to in, trust me. not in Foundation propaganda. But the GOC usually wants to destroy anomalies, the Foundation usually wants to preserve anomalies for containing them, and they usually have a complex back and forth, because sometimes they're right. The Foundation contains anomalies that are way too dangerous and way too unsafe and way too expensive, and really should be avoided. But the GOC has problems when creating anomalies that survive or the death fundamentally causes a catastrophic problem. Like the chair that used to teleport for anybody who needs to sit now teleports into people's lungs because it's been put through a wood chip by the GOC. But then there is countless different enemies that you would want to be eliminated. And sometimes the Foundation's foolhardiness in thinking that they can contain the monster, and the monster escapes. And now, I'm nearing the end of the video. So this is going to be a section of more SCP examples and SCP tales, including some classifications. First, SCP-6001, the SCP adventure that is basically a utopian world where anomalies and the Foundation and every problem existing in the SCP Foundation universe has been fixed. Even problems in our own real world has been fixed through usually anomalies or regular conventional affection. And this researcher has went through a portal into their world. They basically solved everything and live utopian lives. Through this process, they also go into basically explaining that I'll just skip the spoilers. Spoilers. At the end of everything, he gets to stay in the universe while they were seeing if they should enlighten the SCP Foundation universe, but they decided not to. But they are giving the SCP Foundation universe still a chance by not fully closing the portal and leaving their universe permanently disconnected from theirs. It is a kind of nice, sad, and beautiful story. Look at the article if you want to know any more. And now, there's also another anomaly. I forgot their number, but they're a shadow agent of justice that fights crimes, quite literally a man made out of shadows or whatever. Teleports all around the world, fights crimes, and when the Foundation contains him, they actually find out he's the quite literal embodiment of justice, or fighting against anything unlawful, which makes him Formule. Wait, no, not Formule. Formule is an anomaly that contains another anomaly. He's actually Archon. An anomaly that is kind of like integral and would cause massive structural damage, putting them into a box. Basically damage to normalcy. And he's kind of like a perfect example of Archon. Then there is SCP-001, the Sun, or the Daylight and they. I'll just wait a second. I'll look for the name. SCP-001, Sun. Oh yeah, when the day breaks. Which is actually a Polygon SCP, which is a SCP that is like any box situation. The Polygon SCP is not that you can't put a Polygon SCP in a box. It's not like it's not going to inevitably get out. You can't even contain it for an initial period, and it will inevitably destroy the world or do whatever it wants. Essentially uncontainable and unstoppable. Which is when day breaks, when the sun turns evil and basically turns all biological life into a sludge that could basically be zombies. The sludge, if individually contained and whole, are more like zombies, but more like less dangerous zombies, as they are basically incomplete. They basically have some memories of the original version that who they were, and have low intelligence. But when they're grouped together with a single individual, they turn into a sludge mass that multiple individuals are in. They want to drag any light that isn't turned into the sun so they can be turned. It's an apocalyptic scenario. And there's even stories in it. Tales. But, yeah. Okay, this is truly the final of the video. Okay, we are planning to do reactions of different SCP articles, and I'm going to have more videos explaining different SCPs and SCP stuff on the channel. So, anyway, Bye.